Hello, everyone. It's Merilee from Spirit Source Healing and Spiritual Journeys with Merilee. And today, the journey that we are going to be talking about is Dustin Daws' spiritual journey. And Dustin is a shamanistic practitioner. He does extraordinary astrology. He is a tarot reader, and he has a real gift for everything he touches, and I'm in awe of him all the time for his gifts and his intuitiveness. And so today he's going to share with you his um, uh, his astrological ability. Is that how I would say it, Dustin?
Sure. I think today is a great day to kind of talk about how astrology came into my life, and how I use it on my path to help me keep me rooted in the moment and to learn the deeper parts of myself and my psyche. But I also have the ability to use astrology to look at relationships and to look at events that happen in my life, to look at, rites of passages, there are different timing techniques in astrology that you can use to see when you're about to start a new phase or a new chapter. And astrology has been very powerful for me because it's given me a blueprint and a roadmap that I can follow. And there's a lot of power in that. Astrology came into my life right after my Saturn return, and the Saturn return in astrology is it is the universe saying you are now an adult. This happens typically between 28 to 30, depending on where Saturn is placed in your chart. And it takes about 28 and a half years for Saturn to transit all the way around to make one full transit. And when Saturn lands back at the same spot that it was present in your birth, this is considered the Saturn return. And this is can be a period of great frustration and of lessons. And it's the universe saying, all right, we see you now. You're an adult. Here's some adult problems. What are you going to do with them? Saturn as an archetype represents limitations, restrictions, boundaries, time, sorrow. It is like I liken Saturn to the school of hard knocks. Like this is how we discipline ourselves in our life. Like without Saturn in our chart, we would not get things done. We would not stick with our responsibilities. We would not develop a sense of maturity. Saturn in Hellenistic astrology, which is ancient astrology, typically around the periods of the Romans and the Greeks, is considered a malefic planet. Saturn wants to produce has ill intentions, right? In order to be this restrictive, limiting factor that can be very difficult, oppressive, feels like it's pressing the weight of the world on you. And so, yes, there is this flip side of Saturn that gives us discipline and maturity and lasting power and resilience. But you have to learn through lessons. And so, the first Saturn return, if you live to be older, you'll experience more Saturn returns. The second one happens typically around 58, 59, around that
Yep,
age.
did
This
that.
is what we would call the second kingdom of Saturn. And so, but the first one is definitely a reality check. It's like, all right. And it all depends in your chart whether you have Saturn aspected well or not. If you have, some easy flowing aspects like sextiles or trines, uh, Saturn is definitely going to be more of a beneficial. It's still a malefic planet in Hellenistic astrology, but it will be more beneficial and you'll be able to work with Saturn's energy a little bit easier than maybe getting your butt handed to you. And so astrology came into my life right after my Saturn return, where everything was unraveling at the seams. And I was at a place in my life where I was mad at the world, I was mad at myself, I was mad at everyone I loved, and I was literally walking down a path alone. So when I found astrology, me being the Virgo with the Gemini moon, like I just love to learn and I just absorb information and like a Rolodex. I just suck up more and more and more. I first looked at my chart and I was like, whoa, there's a lot going on here. Like, what is this? Like, very confusing. And then I started to like really look at this in pieces, like just looking at the planets. Where are the planets at? Looking at the houses. Okay, what sign do I have in that house? And really had to take my time with this, but it was like building blocks. I started with the basics and I worked my way, learning a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more until I got to a place where I felt very comfortable reading a chart.
Can I wanted to mirror what you're saying because you introduced me to like upper level of my chart. I'm not an astrologer, but I didn't know my chart. But thanks to you showing me what my chart could actually be, I'm now learning. And you're right. I think that's, we talked about, I have to take it bit by bit. So I'm actually eating a piece of pie at a time. That's what I think of it. But it's because of you. And the way you just dug into my chart and found all this stuff that no one's ever said to me before that now makes so much sense. So I just wanted to reiterate what you're saying about like, because I'm not one to go in like that unless I really, want to. And I thank you for that. So, yeah, but it is a piece at a time because I couldn't memorize all 12, like just looking at it. I could not do that. So thank you for
Yeah, I mean, it was
helping me
very
pursue my
overwhelming
own.
for me to start. Like and if you want to go ahead and pull up the chart of the moment, I can kind of talk about, we can point out some things as to why this can be very overwhelming for someone who is new to astrology, especially wanting to study charts and natal charts, charts of the moment, synastry, progressions, all of those things. And so, as you can see on your screen, this is just a very basic chart, and this chart is a chart of the moment. So what we are looking at here is where the planets are in the sky at this particular moment. And this is coming from where Merilee is located. Obviously location and time are important. But you can see in the chart that it looks like a pie, and we have 12 houses. So if you look at the AC over on the left, this is the ascendant, and this is the eastern horizon in the sky. This is the sign that's cresting over. So right now we have Virgo cresting over the eastern horizon. This is the sign that's occupying that space. And then we go counterclockwise. Each house, there's 12 total. So in the second house, we see that there is Libra. In the third house, we see that there is Scorpio. Fourth house would be Sagittarius. Fifth house would be Capricorn. Sixth house would be Aquarius. We have the descendant, which is always opposite the ascendant. And then the seventh house would be Pisces. Eighth house would be Aries. Ninth house would be Taurus. And then we see the midheaven, which is the MC. And this is the highest part of the heavens. It's called the medium coeli. And then opposite that point, we have the IC, which is called the minimum coeli. And this is what we would also call the nadir, which is our roots. This is literally the most intimate spot in the chart. It's where we come from. And then it just follows around 10th, 11th, and 12th house. And so once you get an understanding of where the houses are, and you can see the planets that are sitting in that house, now you can start to understand the energy that's occupying that particular part of life right now. And so this is one of the first things that I learned in astrology was making sure that I know the glyphs and what the glyphs represent so I can easily point it out and say, yep, that's Libra that you're pointing to right now. That's Scorpio. That's Sagittarius. So learning the glyphs is important. And then the next thing about learning is learning what a traditional chart should look like. And so when we cast a chart to look at what energy starts the zodiac on the ascendant, where we see Virgo in this place right now, technically Aries owns that real estate there. That is Aries' house. Okay. And then if we go to the second house, it's Taurus. And the third house is Gemini. The fourth house is Cancer. And so this can be a very confusing thing, especially when you're first starting to learn astrology. You're like, oh, I have Sagittarius there. Yes. in the fourth house, but Cancer rules that house. And so you have to think, now I have a fire sign sitting in a water house. What does that mean? Um, and that can be very overwhelming, but you have to take into account the original ruler of the house and the sign that you have present there. So yes, we have Aries energy backing Mercury right now in this chart being in the first house, right? Because Mercury is Virgo. Mercury is also Gemini, but so right now we have a Mercury ascendant, and but Aries is the energy that's behind it. So we have to think about the two planets that are involved. We have Mercury and we have Mars. And how does that energy work together? Well, Mercury rules communication and Mars rules planet. It's the planet of drive, ambition, aggression, and war. And how do those two energies work together? Astrology is very much so about putting the pieces of the puzzles together, and it's about delineation and synthesis. And so I always say keep it simple, stupid. Like take one thing in a chart and research into that one thing. So let's say in this chart, for instance, we can see that we have Mars sitting in the 12th house in Leo. Well, what does Mars energy feel like in the 12th house? The 12th house is Pisces, which means the planetary energy behind the 12th is going to be Neptune. I apologize. And so now we have Neptune and Mars energy working together. Neptune in the 12th house is the planet of self undoing. In Hellenistic days, the 12th house was considered a daemon lot, it was a malefic house, that this is where we tend to harm ourselves through self undoing, self sabotage, escapism, running from our problems, living in a fantasy world, wanting to dissociate and check out from reality, um, projecting ourselves onto others, being mirrored by other people is very much so the 12th house. And so Mars, which is can be, depending on what type of chart we're working with, Mars can be malefic or benefic. But as a planetary energy in general, Mars is the planet of drive and ambition. It's how we get things done. Without Mars in our chart, we do not have a drive in order to accomplish our goals. But it's every planet has two sides to it. It can be very helpful, but it also can be very hindering. And so on the lower polarity of Mars, we tend to have a planet that can be hot-headed, right? Anger, frustration, uh, literal like acting out violently, war, all of those things. And Mars sitting in Neptune's house tends to get muted a little bit because Neptune, rules the ocean, it rules mirrors, it is the planet of spirituality and dreams. And so it's a very nebulous planet. It can be very vague, it can be very confusing, and some of Mars's temperament gets diminished a little bit, which can be helpful because Mars can be there's only one path for Mars. It's straight. If you look at the glyph, it's a circle with a line shooting off of it. There's only one direction for Mars. There is not this like, let's take my time and go all these different ways. It's very much so like, I want it, I'm going for it. And in Leo, we have Leo, which is ruled by the sun. And so now we have Leo sitting in a water house, and Leo is it rules the heart. It is about connecting to our childlike spirit. It's about compassion. It's about performance. It's about um, it's about doing, right? And being. Leo's motto is, I will, therefore I am. And I can attest to this. I've had many Leos come into my life that have been there for me and will have done what needed to be done, no matter what needed to happen, because they will. And we need those type of people in life. And so we can see that there is this drive right now, especially with the Leo energy in that Neptune house, there's almost this seeking and searching for wanting answers spiritually, wanting to there can be this energy of wanting to turn inward to figure out, what does spirituality mean for me? What does it mean for the collective? how can I be a part of that? And what can I do to be of service? That's how I pick up on Mars and the 12th house. It's about being of service, and it's about getting out and doing what needs to be done to help others so that we can grow. Now, if you look at the red line going from the 12th house to the ninth house, we now have it sitting in a square with three planets that are sitting on the midheaven. And the midheaven in the chart, which is where we see that Taurus energy, is right now the gift that we are bringing to society has very much so to do with um, what we have, our assets are. It can be very materialistic, but at the same time, it's about doing the hard work. Mars is sitting in square to the Sun, Uranus, and Mercury, which are sitting in a conjunction right now. And this energy sitting on the midheaven, what I'm picking up on is that it's very much so that our ego and our identity, our need for radical change and for growth and momentum moving forward, and our way to communicate is a gift that we have. But it's sitting in a tense relationship with this spiritual drive of what is it that we want to accomplish and how do we go about doing that? You know, Taurus, earth sign, rooted, very practical, stubborn. And now we have Mars sitting in Leo, which is very hot and spicy. Even though it's sitting in a water house, there's this drive to want to connect. And it can be hard when you have things that are very, pulling you towards the divine, the esoteric, things that might be considered mystical, and you have all of this energy that is really trying to do the footwork, which is what I'm hearing. That energy is not working well. What I'm hearing is separation of head and heart. And so this is just one way that you could use astrology by being able to look at the chart of moment and say, this is kind of the energy that we're experiencing as a collective. If we look at the eighth house where we see Aries, we have a huge pileup of planets. We have the North Node, Saturn, the Moon, Neptune, Venus, and Chiron all sitting sandwiched together, and all of that energy is all working as one. And and so you start to understand what these planets do and what they represent and how they are showing up in life. And then you can start piecing the puzzle together to make your uh, inference of what does this energy look like? What is it presenting to me? And so astrology for me has given me the ability to understand m- my energetic makeup, how my energetic makeup is working with the collective, how the collective energy is impacting my energetic blueprint. And then as I've deepened my experience in astrology, I can now start to look at the relationship between me and other people, between me and animals. I mean, it can go, astrology is very far reaching. It is not just reading your sun sign horoscope and thinking that that is it. Beyond natal charts and beyond casting a chart like this, we have progressions which show us what we've learned in life so far. We have solar returns that is like a yearly snapshot, which shows us the energy that we're going to be encountering for the upcoming year. It's literally our birthday. And that's kind of like a yearly snapshot of like this is what, when the ascendant changes now, like for instance, I'm in a Scorpio ascendant this year, which means that this is a period where I'm pulling in a little bit more. I'm not necessarily worried about being out in people. I need time alone to process and to integrate and to do the deep healing work that I need. This is how my viewpoint is being shaped by that ascendant sign and my progress chart. You can look at composite charts, which shows you two people together and how their energy is working as one unit. You can look at astrocartography where you can see, what would it be like if I moved and relocated to this particular place? What would the energy be like there? Would it be something that I would enjoy, or would it be something that might be difficult for me because there's a planetary energy on a ley line laying there that might be bringing that energy to the forefront, which can be difficult. And that's why sometimes transitions can be difficult for us, especially if we're not in the right spot. Um, So yeah, astrology has many different tools, and it has been very helpful for me, and I use it on a daily basis. And I started as a beginner and a novice. And in about 3 to 4 years, I'm reading at the professional level. And if you have a serious commitment to learning this, you can make money doing this. You can help a lot of people doing this. And it's very fulfilling work.
Um, can I take this down so we can talk a little bit about everything you said?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
I won't, I don't think I will. We're talking about what you were just saying on the, regarding the chart for today's chart. So I am just going to pop us back to the, I'm going to pop us back to the studio. And there we go. There we go. All right. All right. So um, I like the fact that you said that you use this every day because, like, I have been, because you said, just ask Chat GPT because otherwise I'd be bugging you every day. So I have been asking Chat GPT things like, is today a good day? Knowing my natal chart. But I have to know my natal chart and I have to be able to tell ChatGPT what to do. But like I said, if it, I had to do something that required me selling something valuable a couple days ago. And I'm like, is this a good day for me to do this? And ChatGPT was like, yeah, okay. So, but it's not a very in-depth thing like you can do. Like if I had asked you the same thing, you would have told me exactly why. ChatGPT doesn't tell me why. It's just a yes or no kind of thing. But I just think you're incredible at this, and the fact that you learned it in 3 to 4 years is what is so amazing to me because I know I've told you before that I know people who've been doing it for 25, 30 years and have never been able to tell me what you tell me about my chart. I mean, you dig deep, and I appreciate that, and I think people who come to you for it for astrology are going to appreciate that too. So yeah, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I just wanted to
Oh
say
no.
that your ability to do this is like it is truly a gift. It is, I mean, it's your hard work, but it's also, spirit gave you the ability to do this on the level you do, and it's just amazing to me. So go
Well,
on.
and my thing is like I really have to remember that like I will always be an eternal student, that I have to remain teachable. Like I often at time with astrology feel like I'm a novice. Like and I'm like, and like I have to go back and like look at things and like, but that's the joy of it, is that it's an art as well as a what we would consider a pseudoscience. Traditional science does not say, hey, astrology is real, but it is very technical, and it can be overwhelming. That being said, I've seen how astrology has played out in my life, and especially like once I got a good idea of how to work with a chart, then I started going back and looking at significant periods in my life and looking at the energy that was going on and looking at the transiting energy and saying what was going on here. And then almost always I find something very interesting, and I'm like, oh, so I had Pluto going over my third house. Well, of course that was going to be a very big period where I was transforming how I speak and how I connect with my family members, and and so it just provides a deeper layer. And a big part of learning astrology is about trusting your intuition. And that's something that I very much so have to do, because it's almost like when I'm reading someone's chart, at some point I drop into channel and I'm channeling spirit. And I have I understand the rubric of how it works, but spirit is helping me by nudging me in the areas of the ways that I can actually be able to really synthesize this information so that when I deliver it to a client, it makes sense for them and they get the most benefit out of it. Um, I definitely found that it's through my connection with daily spiritual practice that allows that for it to happen. And and yeah, I go back and revisit the basics. I go back and I relook at things that I feel like, okay, I got a solid understanding. Every day when I look at my chart, I always find something new or if something I've glanced over and I'm like, "Oh, we should go back and revisit that. What does that mean for me?" You know, and that helps me become a better astrologer so that when I'm reading other people's charts, I really give them a complete synthesis and I'm not missing things. Like pointing out, for instance, the yod that was in your chart and
Yeah.
then having, people, yeah, not having anyone tell you that you even had.
You went in and out a little bit. Can you repeat what you just said?
Oh, I was just saying, like, and for, when I was reading your chart for you, like pointing out an aspect configuration that you have, which is called a yod, which is a finger of fate or a finger of God aspect, and not knowing about that aspect that no one had told you about that before.
Right, and you telling me, and I've said this to you before, it it was life changing to know that that was there, and because it confirmed that I have been pursuing my purpose, and I didn't even know it, and but it's yeah. So and it's it when I wake up every morning, I think, okay, I know what I'm supposed to be doing. Let's do this, and yeah. So and the planets, that I have Pluto and I have Neptune, and I have to think about having Pluto and Neptune and where they're at, and I have to bring them forward. So it makes a difference when I wake up every day knowing that that yacht is there. So I thank you for that.
Yeah, and then it's understanding how do I work with this energy? This
Hmm.
energy could be a major point of frustration because typically a yacht is a tense configuration, which typically is very unpleasant and provides a lot of issues in life until we start to learn how to work with and integrate that energy. And so for you, for instance, the yacht that you have going on, it's almost like there is this part of you that it's like really deeply spiritual and it's pointing to how do I get into a teaching position with this, but also how am I integrating this energy so that I can embody and be the teacher. It can be a contentious point where it's like, oh, it's either touch or go. Some days I feel like I am, some days I feel like I'm not. And how do I really step into that? Because the sextile between your Neptune and your Pluto is energy that works well together, but it has to be applied. It has to be consciously engaged with in order to unlock that energy. And then pointing to the part of your chart where really is like really where the frustration's coming from, it's like that's the outlet to the pressure cooker. And how do I start to tap into the sextile? And so, and that's one thing that I can also mention in astrology is like, starting out with the basics, learning the signs, learning the houses,
Yeah.
then learning about how to point those things out on a basic chart. And then once you have a solid understanding of that and you understand the elements, which would be, earth, air, fire, and water, understanding how those elements work, then I would say it would be an appropriate time to start looking at aspects between planets. Like we were
Well,
looking at that aspect in the chart of the moment, which was Mars squaring over to that Uranus, Sun, and Mercury.
well, I was going to say too, don't go looking right away. I think at the like like all the things that are negative in your chart. Don't go looking for that first. Don't go looking for the relationships first. Don't do that because that I think that could just mess you up.
It can be
You have to look
defeating.
at
I mean,
yeah, it almost seems like a self-defeating way of approaching it. So yes, you're going to look at that at some point, but if you get the basics like you're saying, you won't look at it the same way. Once you have some experience and some knowing, you won't look at the stuff that's tough, that
yeah.
you look at it differently and say, well, I've got this and this here, so I can use that energy to count, that. And I say that only because Dustin has taught me to know
I mean,
that.
Yeah, for me, I mean, I have 19 squares in my chart. Like, that is a lot of squares, and squares are very frustrating energy. And so when I had first looked at my chart and I was like, whoa, there's a lot of red and a little bit of blue, and when I was learning, I was like, red is bad, blue is good. And
Right.
it's so much more than that. Like,
Right.
actually, where my gold really sits is in those tough configurations because it gives me the potential to learn and to be teachable and to grow. If you have a lot of trine or blue or sextile energy in your chart, it's like as if everything could be one handed to you, very effortless, and that you feel like you don't have to work hard because it's so naturally free flowing. It can be very complacent and lazy if we don't engage with our gifts. So,
Hmm.
people that are dominated by trines and sextiles tend to have an issue with not having enough ruffling going on in their life, which is causing them to really triumph through adversity. Where I'm built on triumph and adversity, I
Yes,
you
you
know,
are.
I do have some trines in my chart, but it's mostly been struggle. That I think that that's why I work like I do. And I keep like it's like frustration, but I just keep going and I keep trying a different way. It's like uh
Well,
beating a dead horse, and I'm like, I'm gonna keep beating the dead horse.
well, and that's, I mean, I have in the small amount of time I've known you, I know that you are an artist. You do henna, which was amazing to see the pictures that you did, and I think you still have some on your own
Oh,
hands. Um,
yeah, it's
and
starting to fade, but you can see a little bit.
yeah, but that's what happens with henna. We all know that. You are a tattoo artist, and everything that I've seen, your art, that part of you that is artistic, is in your tattoos. It's not, it's not like it's a cartoon thing. You're doing the real thing. And when I say that, it only because my son has sought out. He gets Nordic tattoos because of what he's
Mm,
studied. So Viking, Icelandic, all of that, and he has the bands, and he also has one sleeve, or yeah, not two sleeves yet, but he has one sleeve, and he seeks out people who specifically do that, and then he'll bring pictures of what he wants, and they
mm,
do it. And I think like you could do that exact same thing at that level because he's literally
right.
traveled from Iceland to Germany to get a tattoo, which I just think
That's
when he first
amazing.
told me that, I was like, okay. I don't know if I would travel, but yes, sometime I'll have to take pictures. But the what was I going to say? Um, I know that you are on Hipsy, right?
Is a platform for people to be able to provide services. Particularly, I offer a lot of different services on my Hipsy, which would be from natal astrology to relationship, tarot, oracle. I do offer some Reiki on there. And so there's a bunch of different offerings. It's hypsee.com. And if you type in sacred and profane astrology, I should pop right up, but we'll have that link in the bottom in the description as well. And you can also reach me on my Instagram at Dustin underscore Daws, Daws, and you can message me if you would like a reading there. I also do offer astrological tutoring. So if you're wanting to learn this, I offer weekly sessions through superprof.com, which is a great website that allows different teachers to connect out with people that are looking for potential tutoring. And you can find me under the same name for if you would like mentorship. So
That is awesome. The website looks incredible, and I myself am going to probably put my services on there as well. So I know we have just a few more minutes. Is there anything you'd like to say in closing about?
um, that I would say if you're feeling like you are in a place where you are at crossroads, where you are needing new direction, or just needing insight on the parts that make you tick, that astrology is a very powerful way to understand the fragmented self, to understand the parts of ourselves and how they work in relationship to each other, to give us a better opportunity to really be our truth, speak our truth, and to exemplify our higher selves. How do we connect with that energy? Astrology has given me a way to do deeper shadow work, to look at the, because I mean, I found a lot of things in my shadow that were not inherently bad, that actually have been very good, and it was only through doing astrological work, reading my natal chart, figuring out how this energy is playing out in my life, and then going and looking in the shadow and doing that work to be like, oh, I mean, I found creativity there. I was a dancer. I was a potter growing up. I did not draw. And now I'm a painter and I do henna and I tattoo. This is something that was in my shadow that I had to be willing to go and say, why was I repressing this stuff? Like, why did
Yeah.
I not give myself permission to connect with my creativity? And so that's what astrology can do for you. And if you feel overwhelmed, find a tutor. If you feel overwhelmed and you just want to know about your chart, get a reading. It doesn't necessarily have to be with me, but I would suggest find a good astrologer who has a solid understanding of the work that can really lead you through your chart, and it will be life-changing for you.
Agreed. But just no, I have a soft spot for Dustin because of what he has done for me. So if he's talking, I'm saying go to him. If you want your natal chart read or you want anything from astrology, go to Dustin because he is the best I've seen. I'm not in my 20s saying that. I don't want to say how old I am, but I did teach for 30 years. So I'll just leave that there. But knowing that and knowing like dozens, no, a dozen probably people have read my chart. Dustin is the deepest anyone's ever gone, and I've learned the most. And he is a prodigy. And I just, or a savant, or whatever, the best. And you
I'll
do
take
it. So
it. I'll
I
take it. And
highly
thank you.
recommend
Those are
you.
very kind words for you to say that. It makes my heart warm.
Well,
Let's
it
not
is the
inflate my ego any bigger.
Well, it is the truth. I wouldn't be saying it if it wasn't true because you affected me on such a huge scale. So, thank you. And
Yeah, thank you.
I know we are just about at the time you have to dash off. So
Yeah,
I really thank you for your time. And if you want
and
to
thank
click off.
you.
Oh, of course. And if there's ever any time you want to come back on and want to talk about anything, tarot, anything that you do, I would love for you to talk about your shamanistic practice as well. But that's all for another
Okay.
time. So if you want to
Yeah,
pop in, I can say some stuff about, um, my
sure.
stuff, and I will see you soon. And thank you. Namaste.
Well, thank you so much. Namaste. Have a good rest of your day.
You too. Bye bye, Dustin.
Bye.
So, everyone, thank you so much for watching. Dustin is really incredible. I wanted to say that if you want online Reiki from me, I can do online Reiki. I do online psychic readings. I do online energy work that is not Reiki as well. I am going to get on Hipsy, but I am on Instagram at well, at Spirit Source Healing, and that you can DM me and we can schedule an appointment. I do have a website, www.spiritsourcehealing.co. Please don't ask. It is what Spirit wanted. So I also have this podcast, which is Spiritual Journeys with Merilee. And I do have other guests lined up all the way through September. So I hope you will continue to join us. I also am going to be popping back on for a short, like I did, I think a few days ago, about my process. I'm also going to talk about boundaries, grounding, and cutting energy. And that'll be in a few days, probably after the new moon. And remember, new moons are about new birth, rebirth, but also letting go of things. And so You will see fire on my Instagram, and I will be putting salt and cinnamon at my door. Cinnamon for prosperity and salt for protection, my front door. So, see you next month on the Thursday before the new moon.